Welcome to the online session on mindfulness. I remember one beautiful verse from one of the greatest book. You might be aware Gita. It says, Uddharet Atmana Atmanam Na Atmanam Avsadayet Atma Aivahi Atmanah Bandhu Atma Aiva Ripuhu Atmana. So one verse, 4 liners. First liner, evolve self by self. Second liner, never degrade self by the self. Third liner, self is the best friend. Fourth liner, self is the best friend. Do you remember how many times we have used the self? I have been talking about real self. So I did not say real self 2, 3, 4, 5 times. This is the teaching or the advice given by the originator of yoga, who is Krishna, to a seeker, who is Arjuna. Now understand. First liner is evolve self by self. By the way, that Arjuna was full of anxiety, depression, relationship challenges, and lot of problems. Even though he was a great warrior, he was never defeated in any war. Yes, people say that, now is not the right time to learn when I become old. And when you become old, you have lot of problems, so you cannot learn. Arjuna was 86 years old when he was depressed, full of anxiety, but still there was something in him. He was a seeker. So the first lesson today, first liner, evolve self by self. So first self is the real self. And how to evolve by the other self, that self is the mind and the intellect. Do you know how to fly a plane? No, I don't know it. So this mind and intellect must learn, educate oneself. So the mind and the intellect should know the principles. How to know the principles? My mind is already in a stress and anxiety, duality and a conflict. I am not able to understand. What should I do? I should take the help of somebody else who knows it. And who is that? Teacher. No, I don't want to learn. You just guide me mindfulness, Let me close my eyes and do the breathing. It will not help. It may help. It will give you some relaxation like a pill. Whenever you need it, you get it and you are okay. But again, the mind and the intellect still goes back to the same problems again and again. See that? So the first liner is evolve self by self. It means, is my mind ready and committed? What is commitment? This is 1 hour session, so I'll just briefly cover that. Minimum this verse takes about almost 10 to 15 hours to understand clearly. But you all are intelligent, you can easily understand, so there is no problem. I have no problem. So mind in the intellect should be engaged. How you learn driving? You engage yourself with the driver teacher. You see that I don't engage myself with the driver teacher to learn the driving and I want to know everything. How it is possible? It is a journey. So that is why this master says, evolve self by self. What is the opposite of evolution? Second message, involve, degrading. What is that degrading? It is all we are suffering from: anxiety, stress, duality, conflict, problems in relationship, and there is a long list. The second message the master says, never degrade what? Never degrade self by the self. So again, the first self is the real self, and the second self is the mind and intellect. Mind says, I'm depressed. So what you are creating, real self is here. This is the real self. And now you are degrading yourself. Then the mind says, I'm depressed. I'm in anxiety. I have problem. I have suffering. This is the mind, but the real self is untouched. First thing, mind starts degrading itself. And the second thing, what happens? Mind creates the false self. Mind creates the false identity with anxiety, depression, duality, conflict, problem. But I don't know the principles to replace it. Same thing. I have to know the principle. What I'm doing, I'm introducing the principle in your mind to know. Okay, are you ready to replace it? But what we do in our life, we are constantly degrading ourselves. So when you degrade yourself, the mind creates a false identity, and that false identity you experience as anxiety, as confusion, as duality, as a conflict, as limited by the body, mind, intellect, ego, resources. What it has to do with the real self? Real self is here. And in front the mind comes. You are still the same consciousness. You are still the same pure consciousness. Your essential nature remains permanent peace and happiness. That we don't understand. We don't want to understand. We say instant. Give me instant, like instant coffee. Will it work when your mind is already heavily conditioned by those challenges in your life? You don't want to start from a real journey. Not possible. I'm briefly making you aware. The third is the self is the best friend. What is this self? The same mind in the intellect, when it becomes the best friend. When it becomes the best friend. When the self becomes the best friend. When it is committed to undertake a journey. Now understand what exactly is commitment. If I say I'm committed to give you lessons every Saturday, what it means? I have made a choice that I leave everything but Saturday mindfulness live session without any expectation. What it means, in the commitment, I made a choice. I had many other options, but still I made this a choice. So what is the commitment? That I have to make a choice. in my mind to evolve myself, to awaken to permanent peace, the rest are details. No, I don't have time. I became late. I cannot do it. So when you say I cannot do it, you have already made a choice through the mind that you don't want to do it. So what else? What will happen? So the mind and the intellect, especially the intellect, has to make a right choice. What is right choice? So in Eastern wisdom, we say the right choice is Shreyas. You see that? They are always early. They don't have time. It's okay. So they made a, what is the right choice? Right choice is Shreyas. And what is wrong choice? Preyas. So Master says if you make a wrong choice, that is preyas, you will continue to suffer from stress, problems, relationship problems. What is preyas? Mind says, I will continue to live my life with what I like, what I dislike, and what is pleasant to me. What I like. Now I have to think what the teacher does, because you cannot think in a right direction. So then you take the help of a teacher. The teacher introduces the path of the Shreyas. It does not happen by yourself. Whatever can happen outside, you can have a car, you can leave the car, you can earn more money, you can leave the job. These things will happen. That is what the prayer says. What I like, what I dislike. What I like, I want to keep that attracting. What I dislike, I want to leave it. The same thing happens, soulmate. I'm happy with a person. Soulmate. After a few years, sourmate. Now I'm unhappy with that person. It is because the mind is heavily conditioned with what I like, what I dislike. And what is pleasant to me has to be replaced by the path of the Shreyas. What is right and good. So commitment to what is right and good. Can it happen in a day? When the mind is totally obsessed with the world outside? No. It has to be learned. It has to be introduced. The mind needs to be engaged. So what is right and good in one word? We don't have enough time. What is right and good? The permanent peace and happiness are our essential nature. I need to engage my mind to find that truth, that real self. When the mind and the intellect is constantly pointing to the Shreyas, you are on a path and you are a seeker. Only the seeker succeeds in mindfulness, no other. Can it happen in a day? No. Now what happens, because I like and dislike, this has been happening over years, days, weeks, months and years. That is how I'm living my life. So it has heavily conditioned the mind. So what we think? 24 hours a day? How to earn more? I lost some money and I have a physical challenges. No, I am very busy. That is why I always join late, because I am very busy. My reasoning. No, I find one guy who always joins late. No, I am very busy. So when the mind is heavily conditioned, it will not help you to commit to the right path. One. And the same mind will dictate your intellect, that is here referred as a self. So, do you have a choice left? No. So when you don't have a choice left, the mind and the intellect is constantly moving in a circle with likes and dislikes and what is pleasant, and it is creating what we experience as anxiety, stress, duality, challenges in our relationship, limitedness, perception, ignorance, and long list. Summarizing it. First liner, evolve self by self. Can you think rightly? If you cannot think, you need a teacher. Simple. So your mind reaches to that state of culmination in the first liner, evolve self by self. You have a little anxiety, the mind and the intellect reminds you of the right path. 90% of the anxiety and the stress drops there. You don't need a teacher until lifetime. You need a teacher, driver teacher, until you start driving on the highway of life. Can it happen in a day? I told you. Second is never degrade self by the self. Your mind and the intellect is responsible for degrading you. Claiming that, I have lot of problems. Third, you have to make your mind the best friend. How the best friend you can happen? You take up any you take up any pleasures of the world and make it a friend. It will defeat you. It will make you crazy. So you can make the mind and the intellect the best friend by the principles of the Eastern wisdom. How many principles? There may be 200 principles. No, I have to learn 200 principles. No. It is based on your temperament, your mental state. What level of evolution you are on the path. And who will decide it? Who will help you? I won't say who will decide it. Who will help you? Teacher personalizes and customizes, picks up those moments of the mind that is becoming an enemy, drops it by simple principles, and the time comes. You are ready. You are ready for the journey of mindfulness.